Hello, welcome back. It's time to draw the infamous triangle on screen. So this has taken me absolutely ages to work out how I'm going to do this. I'm going to add a new folder on here called Mesh Objects. In here we're going to add, not that they'll end up in here, they'll end up at the bottom. We're going to add a class. We're just going to call this mesh. As soon as that's created, we will drag and drop those into that mesh object folder. Then in here we're going to need a couple of, actually the first thing we're going to need in here is we are going to need a bit of glad. Oh, wrong one, that one. And then in here we are going to need to not do that. We are going to need a public section. Oops, I'm going to need a private. In here we're going to need a instance. We're going to need to create an instance. Static mesh instance. Like so. We're also going to need a initialize. No. Definitely not. Oh, if only I knew how to spell. Initialize. And then we're also going to need to draw the triangle. And then in here we're going to need to set up some positions for our, I think they're vertices. I think that's what the technical name for them is, although I've read so many things lately, I'm going to call them positions. We're going to need, I'm fairly sure we're going to need 6 of them in an array. And they're going to go something like minus 0.5 to minus 0.5, and then it's going to be 0.5 to minus 0.5. And last but not least is 0.0, 0.5. Now, the only way I could get my head round how this, because I'm not into all this stuff, other than from an interest point of view, is I drew myself a little triangle, so as I could get the work out how this all goes together, and it's basically, the first one is here, it's down 5 and it's back 5 minus. This one is forward 0.5, down 0.5. This one is on the centre line, which is 0, 0, but it's plus 5. Now, you wouldn't believe how long that's taken me to get my head around that, looking at those numbers to work out how that works. But apparently it does. Fortunately, there's a lot more cleverer people than me doing this stuff, so there are some really good tutorials out there. We need to pop these across into our CPP file. There's probably a quicker way of doing that, but I haven't yet found it. I'm working on all these things to speed life up. And in here, we are going to need to create the instance. So that will be pretty much the same as what it is anyhow, which is static. Static, and the mesh. I'm going to call this T-mesh, triangle mesh. It's probably not a good name, but it's what we're getting. And as a new mesh. That's going to return a T-mesh. Like so. And then in here, we are going to, in the initialize, this is where the hard stuff comes in. This is where we've got to really start using our brain, which is a bit of a problem for me because I haven't got much of one. So we want an unsigned int to start with. Unsigned int, and we're going to call this buffer, and we are going to generate a buffer. So GL gen buffers. We are going to generate one buffer from our buffer. We're going to bind that buffer thus with GL array buffer and obviously the buffer. We're then going to get the buffer data, GL buffer data, and this also takes GL array buffer. And here's where it starts to get a little bit complicated. We have to put 6 in here because that's the 6 entries here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times size of float. We then need to put in the positions and GL static drawer. There's the last parameter on there. We then need to do a couple of other bits. Now I'm not going to profess I know exactly what these bits do because I'm still the first one is this one here, and I'm fairly sure this sets the index of our. This is just getting the index of the buffer, so I'm assuming that's going to be 0 because everything on it starts at 0. And then the next one, I'm going to be really honest, I've read it half a dozen times, and this one here, again, not 100% sure what this does. I'm still getting my head around some of this. I'm still getting my head around a lot of this stuff. But this one I think is something to do with the index, so it's the index again, so it's 0, and then it's the size, which I don't understand. This has to be 2, so I'm not 100% sure, and I don't mind admitting I don't know what I'm doing, because I don't, but that has to be 2, and then it's GL float, then it's GL force, and I don't know. Oh, the normalized thing, I think that's to do with, I think that's got something to do with textures, if I'm not mistaken. GL force, and then that goes to size of the float again. And this times 2 and 0 at the end. And I'm going to be really honest, it's a line of code that I don't fully understand. We do need this to return true. And then we need to draw the actual triangle, so we need to no, we don't. I lost it there. So it's GL draw arrays. GL draw arrays, and we are going to draw GL triangles. That's where I was getting mixed up. And what are we going to draw? We are going to draw again, I think this is the index of it, and we're going to draw the 3 vertices of it. We're going to call that up in here. Again, this probably isn't the correct way of doing this, but at the moment, until I learn better, or learn more, till I learn betterer, this is where I'm going with it. And then we then need to pop across to our that's got like all our bits and pieces there together. We're going to need to then go into our main screen where we do all our drawing and stuff, and we're going to have to add the oh, this won't do anything at all unless I add it in here first. So we need to do that in here. We're going to go up one, and we're going to go to mesh objects, mesh H in there. here, back down to where we were in here, mesh, instance, initialize. Now if I haven't made an absolute stonker of a mistake anywhere, we've got no shaders, so we're not going to get anything with any colour on, but we should, by rights, get a white triangle. The moment of truth. Ta-da! How about that? A white triangle. Now obviously we want it colour, we've got to start doing shader programs and shaders, and that's going to be days and weeks and years of work to get anywhere. Well, hopefully not years. We can also do with this, we can also do we can draw a square if we want to. We can draw a lying down triangle, if that makes sense. So we can draw a, let me just copy that a minute. We can do if we were going to draw a square, we basically need two triangles lying down. So you'll have one on the bottom, then one on top, sort of thing. So it would, again, it would start boink boink like that. The next layer goes pretty much the same, but the last layer there's a slight change because this one becomes 5 and that's it. So if I was to that out there just a second and run that bit of code now, hopefully if I've not messed that up, the triangle should be led on its side, which it is. So that then goes. And now if we want to draw a square, all we've got to do is draw this triangle again, but draw it on top like so, which we can do. It's not that difficult. I don't know how long this has probably gone on long enough, me waffling on drawing a triangle. So I'm going to wrap it up there. The next thing to do is obviously to work out how to do shaders and the shader program, so as we can actually add a little bit of colour to our little project, which I'm rather pleased with, considering I've never done this sort of stuff, not this sort of level of stuff in OpenGL. It is really interesting. There are some wonderful people out there on the internet that give this information away free. It really is fantastic, and I'm thoroughly enjoying doing it. Thanks for watching if you did.